We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Master Your Life, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining host and her guests give practical advice that you can use every day in the quest to master your life. Now, here's your host, Leaha Mattinson.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today. Thank you to everyone for joining us wherever you are on this beautiful planet today. I'm joined this week by Dr. David Hardy. Dr. Dave, how are you this morning?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic, and happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday, yes, to everybody. And no matter what day of the week you're listening to this podcast, I want to encourage you to come over to the masteryourlife.ca website and check out the video version, or you can check us out on the YouTube channel. You can check out Dr. Dave's work at thehardybrain.ca. So make sure you get out your pen and paper, because we're going to be talking about some important things today about developmental milestones in children. And I know we've talked about this in other episodes, Dr. Hardy, but we really wanted to focus and dedicate this show just to this age group, because it's really becoming more and more glaringly apparent as we look out at the landscape of the struggles that people have with being successful in their adult life, that it very seriously links to what happened to them in their raising during the time of their birth to age 4. So we're going to dedicate this episode today to that topic. So if you're a mom or a dad or a grandparent with children in this age group, or if you yourself are listening and go, I've been having some of these problems in my life, maybe it could link to not having a good, successful milestone achievement during that age. What can I do about it? Because we can do things to change our experience in life to be more happy and more fulfilling if we know what it is that has tripped us up. So let's dive into this today, this very important topic. So Dr. Hardy, let's just start with, why is it important? What is important in this development? People think, I'm going to have a baby. That's pretty easy. It's a natural thing. How hard can it be? And then the baby arrives and you go, oh my Lord, whoa, this is a lot. And so it's a lot to parent. That's the most important job that we have. And why is it so important?
It's immensely important because basically the brain and nervous system are developing very rapidly in that period of time. And also the brain will reach this state where basically it's got more neurons, and the next job it has, and this is why toddlers start to learn so quickly, is what we call pruning. So you've got overabundance of connections. And then basically what happens is when they learn, they're just cutting away connections versus building connections. So it's quite this rapid period of learning. And this is kind of where the nervous system starts to really develop these connections that are going to set us up later in life. And it's just this massive growth period and period where that brain really starts to come online that we can't go back in time and get back.
Right. And so we've talked on other episodes and worldwide leaders and thought leaders and people who are research experts are acknowledging that these developmental milestones are changing.
Yes.
And not for the good. So it's just like, and it's not just the experts that are noticing this. My son-in-law said, I was talking with him about the importance of these milestones. They've got 2 and another one on the way. And
nice.
And I said, there's like these milestones that were important when I was taking my training in psychology, that we learned, Piaget, et cetera, and that we, brought into our workplace. But these milestones have changed, and that like potty training has changed to be, instead of, around 2 years of age, it's like 3 and afterwards.
Wow.
Yeah, and so he said, uneducated in psychology, he's got lots of experience as dad. He goes, you'd think we'd be getting smarter about these things, that we'd be getting better at them.
Right. That's the complete opposite. Yeah. Yeah. And you go into psychology, and of course, everybody goes into Freud, and kind of Freud's theories got, of course, they're bizarre, right? So a lot of people don't really pay attention to them other than just to kind of make these jokes. But what he was actually explaining was basically different phases where different parts of the nervous system comes online. So he talks about this oral stage, and then eventually the genital stage. And all of this, though, is basically how the nervous system is developing. So if you look at nature and nurture, well, the nervous system's developing these kind of plexuses and areas of the spinal cord and nerves coming in, going up to the brain to feed those centers. Those are developing in these stages. And Freud explained them. And then what he kind of went off on was that then the nurture side becomes skewed during these periods of time if trauma or something happens. Well, that was back when it was sort of developing normally.
Right.
And yeah, trauma would definitely cause these areas to not function and work properly. And we're still seeing that. But what we're also seeing is we're seeing basically all these micro traumas, toxins, inflammation, and lack of stimulation that is causing these parts of the nervous system not to flourish. Mm-hmm. And then we're adding in, of course, more and more stuff and bombarding them nurture-wise differently. That's going to really skew how these systems work. And we just don't know the result of it until 10, 20 years later, or the parent is starting to report all sorts of things not happening properly with their child and noticing this and aren't getting any answers to it.
Mm-hmm. So what would be some examples of things that parents have shared with you over the years that you've been in practice that are kind of disturbing, and you go, well, that's, and that they've noticed? So it's got to be pretty noticeable for those up close to notice, because often people who are closest don't notice.
Right.
They don't. They're whatever they're doing. They're busy. They're tired. They're whatever, and they don't want to hear that something's wrong with their child either.
Oh,
right, there's something wrong. Well, nobody wants to hear that.
Like, why? Oh God, that's got to be the worst news ever. Mm-hmm. But later in life, it's like, oh, that's just how so-and-so is. That's how little Johnny is. And it's like, well, something kind of caused that. So yeah, a lot of it's looking at basically motor-wise how the child develops. And well, let's backtrack. The first thing that happens are reflexes. Reflexes start to develop the child's nervous system. And we've got all sorts of different reflexes, like from the rooting reflex, where you stroke the lips and the cheek, and then the baby suckles. Mm-hmm. So Freud's oral stage. That's kind of what's happening, what's developing. Mm-hmm. And then, well, we've got spinal reflexes. We've got eye reflexes. Basically, any receptor that has a sensation is going to have this sensory motor loop. And the first part is to get those sensations to start to happen. And then that will kick off a motor response. Mm-hmm. Well, motor response are also basically the same part of the brain where intellect develops too. So that whole thing is first going to start with just the baby being stimulated, being nurtured properly. And there's less of that. The biggest one's going to be touch. And we look at it, we put babies into clothes right off the bat. There's less skin to skin contact. And then we carry them around in the little baby carriages instead of holding them. So then there's a little less stimulation. And then you talked about toilet training and how that's being prolonged. Well, if you had to control basically how you go to the bathroom, you first need to feel it. Mm-hmm. And they're not feeling it. They're not getting that sensation because the diapers have become so good that the baby is now comfortable peeing. Well, the first lesson in toilet training is, or was in different time periods, don't pee on mom.
Right.
Like, yeah.
The reaction was, what?
Exactly. And that automatically got the baby trained. Okay, it's a bad idea to pee on mom. I felt it coming, and then I let it go. And oh my God, mom doesn't want me right now. And it trains the baby to learn when to hold it. And it's unpleasant because if we ever went back to that now, well, people would be peed on by babies and
all the time. Yes.
But, yeah. But it's kind of, well, do you want to get it out sooner and get the baby trained, or do you want it to go on for what, 3 or 4 years now? And then look at bedwetting later in life too. It's one of those things you have to kind of deal and put up with unpleasantries. And of course, that's one of them. Or just even cloth diapers. A baby's going to start to feel that unpleasantness of getting wet and start to learn, okay, well, I feel that. And well, can I control it? Can I hold it? Type thing. And,
and it's nuanced also, I think, Dr. Dave, because the parent is also passing a milestone here.
Yes.
So the babies are passing milestones, and so are the parents. And the reason why that's so important is because people need to feel like they're competent. These are the first iterations of, oh, I'm competent as a parent.
Right.
It's not just the baby. It's also the parent going, oh, I've got this. Okay. And like, whew, like I did it. And it's like high five. And I can tell you it's true because people, when my kids were little, so 26 years ago and so on, the girls would all sit around and we would talk about when the kids were potty trained and who actually did it. And then high five whoever it was that was successful at it, because it's not easy. Like you actually have to focus on what you are doing. But once it's done, it's like everyone's doing a happy dance and the kids are doing a happy dance too. It's like, and they are, it's like, I peed on the potty. I peed on the potty. And everyone's like, woohoo, dude. It's like heaven. It's like some divine thing has happened. It's like, yes, because it has. Because you don't actually need to be doing any of this changing of the little bumsies anymore.
Right.
But it is really important that from a number of perspectives, financially too. I mean, it just goes on and on and on, this diapering. It's like, and it's really expensive. So it's really expensive financially. It's really expensive emotionally. It's expensive for the child who's not ready to go to, grandma's house, because we kind of have a thing here where if you're not potty trained, you can't have a sleepover, because it's become so important that there's some sort of pressure somewhere in order for the potty training to happen. That if you don't exert some pressure, then people will just pee their pants forever. We're not supposed to do that. We'd laugh and say, well, they'll stop when, they're ready to date. That might be a little late.
Yeah, that's just not good.
That's right. We're not supposed to be back in a diaper until, we're 90 or so or whatever. But that
kind of goes into it. How we develop is how we're going to perform in kind of midlife, and then how we decline later in life. And there's a lot of people in adult diapers, and that's not good either. And we're seeing all these trends just heading in the wrong direction. We're really getting weaker as a species in general. Yes,
definitely. So let's go back to the babes and also talk a little bit about when you're talking about cloth diapers. I think this is a great example also of how something that was really good kind of took on a life of its own and now has become the extreme the other way, and the pendulum swinging back, to kind of a comfortable place. So cloth diapers were really hard on moms and dads, and it was kind of sometimes a little bit hard on babies too, because if they got left in them or whatever, there was, diaper rashes and all these kinds of things. They're a lot to clean up there, so then the disposable diapers came in. That was like, oh, thank God. But now it's gone so far the other direction that people don't feel anything. And then when the child gets a little older, they're argumentative too. It's like, well, I'm not going to go to the potty because you didn't catch it fast enough to get them to want to be cooperative in a way.
Oh, yeah. I could see that happening. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like they're going, like, I know I need to pee. I can feel that I need to go to the washroom, but I'm not going to because I don't have to, because I'm pretty comfortable and I'm going to play this little game with you, which is I don't have to actually go to the potty game. Yes. And so then the parents end up in an intellectual conversation, discussion, debate, with
a mind that's not intellectualized yet.
Yes. It's just kind of savage. The child is still uncivilized, and I don't mean savage in the, in a bad way, but just they're going to do what they're going to do that's comfortable. So what would have been the old milestones kind of from neurological development stage? Like, was 2 the old sort of age of potty training from your experience? Or
that's definitely what I've heard more of. And then, actually, I've got a good poster on my wall in the clinic here with all the milestones on it.
Oh, great. Well, let's take a look at that and read too. So for those of you who are listening to this, make sure that you tune in to masteryourlife.ca so that you can watch the video version, or you can check it out on the YouTube channel. And
absolutely. Yeah. And these are the old milestones. They've actually been changed from what I've heard. And I don't feel like putting up new milestones that are just normalizing something that's not proper. And so 1 month, the baby should be able to lift its head, lie on the tummy, respond to sounds, stare at faces. And that's going to be kind of the first stages to developing into basically being able to then sit, crawl, stand, walk type things. And then you start to go into vocalizations and then recognizing faces and scents and visual tracking. And you kind of just move along, and then more emotionality starts to develop as well, and more connection starts to develop.
So is that in month 4?
Month 4, we start to see smiles and laugh and can bear weight on legs and coos when you talk to them. And then we move along, and geez, we're going fast. Like, this is only month 5. And then we start to go into colors and plays with hands and feet. So we go from basically just head and kind of moving the trunk of the body now into things that are going to develop into being able to write and to grasp objects. And you can really start to see how this is going to turn into basically all the functions that we're able to do as an adult. And it's exciting. These are the small little stages of it. So if we were to break down basically any complex task into a lesson plan or anything in, sorry about the mic there.
That's okay. Great.
Were to break down any skill, it's going to be broken down into small little steps along the way, right? And the classic example is going to be sports, right? You start to practice little drills before you're able to play a game. So that's kind of the analogy for all the fathers out there who are looking at these milestones, right? The mothers are going to naturally have a better intuition about it. And
I don't know that they do.
Oh, okay.
I think that that's not true anymore, or we wouldn't be seeing these very disturbing trends. The moms are the ones who spend most time with them. And I'm a woman, so I feel, and raised a couple children, and I've got 4 grandchildren and another 2 on the way. So I feel like I have a fairly extensive understanding of child development, child psychology, because that's actually my education as well.
Right.
And so when I'm watching these things, I'm speaking because I am really disturbed as a grandmother going, how do I set my grandchildren up to be successful and my children to be great parents? And so I don't know that people are that intuitive anymore. I think that they spend a lot of time on their devices. And they don't spend a lot of time actually with their children, and a lot of time numbing out. So if you think about all the things that have happened over the last couple of years, or even 3 years, COVID babies, for example. So that's an actual thing where people are saying that the kids weren't properly socialized because they were at home. The problems in schools, because when that hit, one of my grandsons was in kindergarten, and that hit in March, and he didn't get any of the end of his year, March, April, May, June. So for 4 months, they didn't go to school.
Right.
And that's in kindergarten, grade 1, kindergarten, I think. Yeah. And he went to kindergarten full time. And so all of the socialization stuff that was happening and would be normal, and the milestones were instead subverted by this big, get the masks on, get people lined up, get them in order. Can you imagine being a child, actually what your brain would have had to take on and understand then? Right. Because we're seeing huge learning disabilities, huge. And the teachers will say, we can't teach these kids because we were so busy managing all of the bureaucratic stuff that was coming down that we couldn't even teach. And so there was that piece. So then, unless you're somebody who actually has the resources to be able to put your kids in alternate additional learning to help supplement all the things that they missed, your kids are in trouble. So we've got this, and the parents feel a tremendous amount of guilt and shame.
And how are the parents going to learn this if they're isolated as well? And
yes. From mom's groups, dad's groups.
Mental health thing right there for the primary parent as well. Not being able to get out and socialize as well and take some time away from the baby.
Yes.
And, it is absolutely devastating what's happened there when we look at the socialization of children, and especially at these very, very precious moments where that system's developing.
Yeah, you don't get it back.
You don't.
That's what you don't get it back. So it's like that's why I'm pressing on it so much, is because you really don't get it back. And if people understood that a little bit better, because it's again the snow job of, well, we can fix that later. We can fix that later. You can fix anything, can be fixed later. You can be anything, and you can fix anything later. No, you actually can't fix everything later. You can try to shore it up. You can try to fix. You can try, but the amount of unsuccess that parents and children are having at these really critical ages is impacting you for your whole life. So if you could actually push a reset button and just go back to, that time in life, then, or if you're responsible for people who are there, like, what is it that you could do that with some sort of intelligent strategy that you would apply and go, okay, if I didn't just rely on my intuition, because all of my friends, their kids are also not peeing and not going pee on the potty until they're 3.
Yeah,
what society is telling me is
normalization of unnormal,
right?
And so that's what we got going on, is that that there's so many people that fall into these categories of not developing properly that we think it's normal now, and no, that's just taken away from the potential these kids have, and also basically,
and that we have
how they're going to feel later in life,
right?
And like let's like we always say, mental health, emotions. Well, what's the more common word for emotions? It's feeling. And feelings start by actually feeling something. All these senses in the brain basically come in and stimulate it and develop it. If the baby doesn't develop these sensations, they're not going to have proper feelings later in life. And you get into the body dysmorphias, you get into the anxieties. All of these are stemming from, once again, systems that aren't developing properly.